Howdy folks, welcome to Homeowner Helper. Here in my kitchen we're going to be sharpening knives. Now, if you're doing any kind of food prep or any kind of work with a bladed tool whatsoever, a sharp knife is a safe knife and one that's a lot easier to use. So today we'll be learning how to use a sharpening stone as well as a hone. Their different uses, what they're for, and how to get this knife sharp. Stick around. Now, before we go any further, I want to talk about what specifically sharpening is when it comes to a knife. Now, this seems kind of like a dumb thing to say. Well, of course, when a knife isn't sharp, it doesn't cut very well. When a knife is sharp, it cuts great. So, for instance, this knife is not very sharp. It makes a hard time biting into the paper and slicing. We get a decent one every once in a while. Definitely not that sharp. It's a pretty popular test that you'll see on YouTube, guys. You know, slicing pieces of knives off, or they'll slice through tomatoes. I don't have any fresh tomatoes today, so we're sticking with paper. But as you can see from this piece of paper, we've got more tearing than anything else. So I know what you're thinking. Hey, I've got one of these in my kitchen knife set. I mean, that's, all you really need to do to sharpen a knife is this, right? That sharpens a knife. That's what all the chefs do. They get fancy. You've seen it done like this a couple times. Gordon Ramsay's going crazy with his hone like this. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure that, that's got to sharpen a knife, right? It doesn't. This is called a hone. So basically, when you use a knife, or really anything that has a blade, as an edge to its blade, after use, what will happen is that the metal of that edge will slowly start to what's called burr, which means that you'll have little bits of the metal that kind of do one of these, right? They kind of bend one way or the other. What a hone does is just kind of guides that metal back into place to maintain that edge. So a hone is what you should be using pretty much every time you use your knives. And I'll show you how to hone once we're done with the sharpening. Once a knife has been used a fair bit, or it's been used improperly, it has some chips and nicks and stuff like that in it, or the edge has just gone really bad, instead of just the movement or the burring, the blade will actually flatten out that edge. And so what sharpening does is sharpening removes material to reform that edge, if that makes sense. So what we'll be doing is we'll be using this as a tri-hone by Smith's. You can get it at any big box for under $40. It's a pretty decent set. It will come with a little vial of oil. That oil doesn't necessarily say it's food safe. If you're going to use oil, I recommend food safe oil like mineral oil, or in my case, since I'm out of mineral oil, butcher block conditioner, which works just as well. So this has a coarse, a medium, and a fine grit stone. And we'll be working through all three with the knife here. And then we'll test it out on a fresh piece of paper. And at the end, I'll show you how to hone. Zoomed in a bit here so you can really see what I'm doing. I have these towels down because, using an oilstone can be a pretty messy business. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take just a little bit of the butcher block conditioner. We'll just get a nice thin layer of that on the stone. Go ahead and get a paper towel for our hands here. Now, one of the big things, and if you look, you can kind of see the bevel right here. And when you look at your knife, you'll see it's flat and then it goes at an angle. That's called the bevel. So when you're sharpening a knife, you want to maintain that bevel. And, if you're out of practice, you can kind of, get it by feel or by sight. Most kitchen knives are going to be about a 22-ish, angle. So what you can do to make it easy is you've got 90, half of that is 45, half of that is the angle that you want, or thereabouts. That's also, coincidentally enough, about half of your, pad of your finger there. You'll also see some fancier sets that have angles and guides to get that really precise. But one trick that you can also do that some people like is to take a Sharpie and run it down the edge of the blade here. So let's clean that off and let's do that exactly. So what you can do is you can take a Sharpie and you can just run it along the bevel. So you can see we've got our black edge here. And then as you sharpen the knife, you can basically see how the Sharpie is being worn off to determine if you've got the right angle or not, or if you're twisting or a little high, stuff like that. So we'll go ahead and do that to both sides here. Do that to both sides. And we'll get going. So we've got our thin layer of oil. We've got our angle here, at least what we believe is the angle. And so what you're going to do is you're going to put a little bit of pressure down, and you're just going to have a fluid motion kind of back and forth like that. Try not to twist or lift too much. Also try not to bring the tip off of the stone, because you can actually start bending the tip. So what I like to do is have my middle finger here right behind the tip, not on the front, so you're cutting yourself. Have this finger here as a guide, and just move like this. Now some people just like to go back like this. Some folks, and this is how we learned it in the Boy Scouts, you start like this, and you slowly work outwards. You'll find that a lot of people just do kind of a back and forth motion. And then what you can do is you can look to see how your Sharpie is being worn away. And we see that we're getting the Sharpie pretty well. And let's clean this off here. We're getting the Sharpie pretty well. There's still a little bit on the tip here, so our angle on the tip isn't quite right. But what you can see is this knife actually has quite a little bit of pitting and chips here in the blade. So what we're going to do is we're going to be working the coarse side of this for a while to start to reform that edge. Now, do this for about 10 to 20 strokes, and you'll start to feel a little bit of a burr on the other side, and that's basically the material from this side of the blade is pushing to that side, and you'll kind of feel that out. And then what you can do is you can just turn the knife over and reverse your angle. Now, the benefit of the coarse side of the stone here, or using a coarse stone, is if you've got a blade that has really been damaged, it's been chipped pretty bad, it's been used improperly, or you've done one too many YouTube knife demonstrations, and you're sawing on something to try and dull it so that you can make a video about sharpening a knife. Let's see how we're doing. So we're starting to repair our edge a little bit. There's still a couple of decent chips. So what this is doing is removing material, but we should see that even from just this little bit of work here, we're getting a little bit more bite. We're getting a little bit more bite on the paper when it catches, right? Still a lot of work to be done here. So I'll continue here on the coarse side, and then when we come back, we'll switch over to the medium. So I've been working the coarse side of this stone for a while, and this is an older knife, so it's seen some damage. But for the purposes of this, we can see that even that work that we've been doing on the coarse side, we're getting a lot more bite and improvement here just in that amount of work. So what we're going to do is we're going to move to the medium side. This is a higher grit, so that way it will really kind of fine-tune a lot of that sharpening that we've done. The coarse side is primarily for removing material. The medium side, all sharpening, it's all removing material. But the medium side, we're going to continue that work, and then when we move to the fine side, that'll really kind of dive in. So we're on the medium side, same deal as before. Little dab will do ya. Here we go, got our paper towel here. And kind of same thing as before, we're going to find our angle. You can hear the difference in the sound between the medium and the coarse. That coarse side is a lot grindier of a sound. You had a lot more of a grinding sound, whereas the medium is kind of that higher pitched, more kind of sliding type sound. And you'll hear the difference in sound with the fine side as well. Let's give that a test here. We're seeing it's quite the improvement already. Now this is not the scary sharp that you'll see in a lot of places on YouTube, or as some of you knife aficionados may like. We're not going to be shaving with this, but it is a far sight better than what we had originally. So I'll continue working on the medium for a little bit, and then we'll move over to the fine. You'll see the difference there, and then we'll also hone. So I've been working on the medium side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move to the fine side here, and just like last time, a little dab of our oil. Now these are oil stones, as a reminder. So the manufacturer here, Smiths, in their directions, they specifically recommend their honing solution. Really any oil, mineral oil, butcher block conditioner oil, those will work. Some stones specifically require water, some specifically require oil, some can go either or. Make sure that you obviously read the instructions of whatever stone that you purchase. But on to the fine side here, and you can hear the difference in that sound compared to the other stones. It is a much smoother sound. How high the grit is. I mean, it's almost like rubbing the knife up against glass. So taking another sheet of paper here. I mean, you can see just how much sharper it is compared to where we first started. I mean, it's making ribbons out of this sheet of paper. Again, we're not shaving sharp. I'm not going to be shaving my arm here at any point, but this is way better than it originally was. So let's move on. So we've got our hone here, which is a piece of metal. It's got a bunch of lines and grooves in it. So we're basically going to be doing a very similar thing to what we did with the stone, keeping that same angle. 10 times or so side. And then 5. Just like that. Now, if you are not comfortable with this, here's another way to do it. You can take a kitchen rag, place your hone straight down on it. You're going to have that number 90, 45. Go the whole way here on the tip. Working your way down. You can do that if you're not as comfortable. If you have more comfort, you can do this. Now this honing, you should do pretty much every time you use your knife. Sharpening, you realistically only need a couple times a year. But even after the hone, and some people would use a leather strop to help out with that burring. Very nice. So this has been Homeowner Helper, how to sharpen a knife. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff. See you next time.